They tell stories about humans now. In whispers? In the kind of voices used when speaking of curses, or spirits that wait in the shadows. But back then, long ago, none of us feared them. We didn't even respect them. To us, they were a statistical anomaly, an aggressive, self-destructive species crawling out of its gravity well, swinging clubs made of radiation and metal. Primitive. Unworthy. Amusing. I was young, ambitious, decorated in wars that shaped the sectors. My people were tacticians, strategists, engineers of precision. We orchestrated battles like symphonies. I believed there was no mind we couldn't outplay, no species we couldn't tame or extinguish. So when a new species sent envoys requesting to be left alone, not join, not barter, not beg, just left alone, we laughed. The Galactic Council scoffed. Who denies us? The vote was unanimous. No treaties. No discussions. Observation first, subjugation second if necessary. The usual sequence. But then came the request for diplomatic contact. From Earth. Not through channels. Not through intermediaries. Direct. They said they'd send a single representative to speak. No army. No ship. No escort. Just one. The council accepted, if only for the spectacle. 1,000 delegates from 80 systems, seated in arrogance, waiting to see what their little, primitive, would say. I was among them. I wanted to be. I had studied their crude transmissions, their wars, their violent myths and primitive history. They would come begging, I was sure of it. Or bluffing. Either way, we'd set the terms. Then he walked in. He was average in stature by our metrics. No armor, no neural link visible, not even the posture of one accustomed to power. He looked quiet. That was the first detail that unsettled me. Quiet isn't how prey should behave. He said nothing at first. Not when the Tarmac delegate mocked Earth's ancient combustion engines. Not when the Juri ambassador laughed at their lack of FTL capability. He watched. Calmly. As if studying us instead of reacting. As if measuring. When the noise died down, he stood and placed a small object on the table. A standard data prism. Nothing remarkable. But what came next froze the room. My name, he said, is irrelevant. I speak for Earth. Simple words. Delivered without hesitation, without bravado. His eyes met ours like someone weighing predators and finding them disappointing. We asked you to leave us be, he continued. You chose to mock that request. Still, none of us took him seriously. Some even smirked. I was one of them. What was this, some veiled threat? You have violated our atmosphere. You've abducted civilians. You've tampered with our satellites. All while believing yourselves unseen. Untouchable. Now the murmurs began. Slight ones? Not from fear, yet, but from confusion. The violations he mentioned were confidential. Nothing that should be known to a fledgling species. Our black ops weren't even logged in official archives. You took our silence as weakness, he said, almost softly. But it was simply patience. I remember the air then. It changed. Subtle, but real. It was no longer amusement we felt. It was caution. The human pressed the top of the data prism. It activated. Dozens of holograms flickered to life around the chamber. Data logs, encrypted communications, surveillance footage of black ships landing under night skies on Earth, abductions in motion, probes dissected, alien corpses dissected in return. Precise. Undeniable. Each file stamped, categorized, and time-stamped. He had known for years. Gasps followed. A few delegates began accessing their neurofeeds, trying to confirm or disprove the data. They failed. Every secure line in the chamber had gone dark. Still, the human did not raise his voice. Still, he did not threaten. He only said, You sent agents. You sent machines. You believed you were untouched. But you've been bleeding for years. Quietly. I stared at him, truly stared for the first time. And what I saw was not anger. It was control. Absolute, terrifying control. The kind that doesn't bark, doesn't boast, doesn't need to. He leaned slightly forward. Earth doesn't need to win wars, he said. We end them before they start. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was not the apex hunter in the room. I met a human that day. And I walked away changed. Because I didn't see a diplomat. I saw a loaded weapon pretending to be human. He never blinked. That detail remains etched in my memory, not from absence of reflex, but from unshakable control. His eyes were fixed, not on the delegates, but through them. Like he already knew the answers to questions we hadn't yet asked. There was no armor, no visible augmentation, no translator device. Just a man, calm and alone, facing empires. The chamber had gone silent after the prism's reveal. Not a silence of respect, one of tension. The kind that thickens the air, slows the breath, tells instinct something is wrong. The Tarmac delegate, still trying to salvage dominance, stood and accused Earth of fabrication. He called the data false, an illusion generated for psychological manipulation. The human gave no reply. No protest, no explanation. Just silence. And that silence burned louder than any counterargument. The Jurai envoy tried next. Demanded accountability for the unauthorized possession of confidential military information. The human responded with a single sentence. Unauthorized is a concept you lost the right to use when you invaded our skies. No anger. No rhetoric. Just fact. And it struck harder than any threat could have. I watched the faces around me. Expressions ranged from disbelief to unease. The younger species, the ones without military scars, still didn't understand. They thought this was still political theater. Those of us who had commanded wars knew better. The calmest ones are always the deadliest. Then the human activated the prism again. This time, it broadcasted intercepted communications between council members, intelligence directors, and covert commanders. Every word authenticated, every encryption traceable to the source. Exposed. He had tapes of conversations that never passed through open channels, conversations even our own species weren't supposed to have recorded. What followed wasn't denial, it was panic disguised as indignation. The Tyvek representative began shouting about breach of universal sovereignty. The Valari tried to call for a recess. But the chamber's systems ignored her command. Doors remained sealed. Interface controls unresponsive. Internal security frozen. That's when understanding began to spread. He hadn't just brought evidence. He had compromised the very infrastructure we were using. Quietly. Thoroughly. From the inside. The human finally spoke again. You came to Earth to see if we were worth fearing. I came here to show you that question was already answered. A deep dread settled then. Not one of fire or explosions. Something worse. Strategic suffocation. One by one, council members attempted to initiate comlinks back to their fleets. No signal. Navigation AI reported interference. Not from outside, internal block. Our own systems were denying us. He knew. Somehow, Earth knew every subsystem standard, every operating path, every frequency. Not just of one empire, but dozens. And not through brute force. Through time. Through infiltration. Through study. We thought them primitive. But primitives don't embed silent backdoors into neural relays and make them undetectable. He gestured toward the display again. This time it showed our fleets. Position near Seoul. Surveillance drones. Listening stations. Recon vessels cloaked and idle. Every one of them marked. Labeled. Catalogued. Then the screen updated. Red lines crossed each vessel one by one. As if checked off. Terminated. Still images followed. Empty husks. Drifting wrecks. Some cut cleanly in half. Others disabled without a mark. 0 visible attackers. No heat signatures. No launch traces. Just aftermath. Efficient. Silent. Absolute. A voice, another delegate, perhaps from the Euryxy, finally broke, asking the question on everyone's mind. What do you want from us? The human looked at him, finally breaking eye contact from the rest of the room. Nothing. He didn't explain. He didn't clarify. That single word chilled more than threats ever could. Nothing meant no negotiations. No demands. No favors. Earth didn't want alliances or tributes. They wanted distance. We weren't being offered terms. We were being given warning. I remember the realization landing in my chest. This wasn't a cry for help. It was a quiet reveal of power, the kind that doesn't need armies. Earth had allowed us to play with knives in the dark, thinking we were unseen. Now they'd switched on the lights. The human pressed the prism one final time. Every screen in the chamber went black, then displayed the same message in every known galactic language. We see you. We are prepared. Do not return. And then, without ceremony, he stood and walked out. No guards. No weapons. Just silence following him like a shadow. And in that moment, surrounded by the greatest minds of the council, I understood something few ever live long enough to comprehend. We hadn't encountered a diplomat. We'd been dismissed by something far more dangerous. No one moved for several minutes after he left. The chamber, once filled with voices that shaped sectors, sat in complete paralysis. Every mind raced through one question: how much did Earth already know? How deep did their access run? How long had they been watching? Then systems began failing. Quietly at first, minor lags, sensor blips. But the pattern spread like a virus. Environmental control dropped. Emergency protocols activated and then immediately deactivated. The chamber lights flickered once, then stabilized, but the silence deepened. That's when the terror shifted from psychological to absolute. One delegate stood, trying to issue an emergency override. His console sparked, then died. Another attempted to use his neural uplink. He froze mid-command, eyes wide, collapsed instantly. No scream, no tremor, just silence. Medical units deployed. Too late. Brainwave patterns flatlined. Panic cracked the room. Not from external threat, but internal unraveling. Our own systems were turning against us. Everything we'd relied on, shields, defense grids, communications, was behaving strangely or shutting down entirely. Our AI no longer responded to standard queries. It gave static, or worse, nothing. Then the chamber's central console activated on its own. No one had touched it. No one had authorized it. A new visual appeared. A timeline. A list of council-approved incursions into Earth's system. Dates. Ship registries. Operatives' names. All classified. The list was long. And beside each entry a status: neutralized, terminated, compromised, reprogrammed, counter-deployed. A dozen empires saw their secrets exposed in synchronized devastation. One by one, every delegate's personal data core was accessed, some through direct terminal breach, others through neural threads. It didn't matter how advanced or secure the species was. No firewall held. Each received something different: records of failed missions, conversations they thought deleted, surveillance from their own ships now turned against them. I felt it too. My private terminal projected an image, a secure transmission I had once sent, believed lost in the encryption void. It had been captured, analyzed, replayed back to me. My voice, my strategy, my arrogance. Played like a file retrieved at will. This wasn't warfare. There were no missiles. No plasma strikes. No screams of battle. It was collapse. Calculated. Measured. Perfect. We tried to contact our fleet's position near Earth. No signal returned. A few ships responded briefly, fragmented reports, static-laced sentences. Then silence. When satellite feeds from surveillance stations updated, they showed destruction. Ships vaporized without evidence of fire. Hulls sliced as if by unseen tools. Others appeared intact, yet completely lifeless, drifting without energy signatures or life signs. Not a trace of retaliation. Just erasure. Then we understood, Earth hadn't waited for war. They had already fought it. Quietly. Preemptively. While we believed we were observing them, they had turned every observer into a target. Not with brute force, but with precision no one thought a newborn species capable of. And they hadn't used fleets. They'd used information. Earth had studied us not like a rival, but like a problem to be solved. They'd mapped our behavior patterns, our tech cycles, our doctrine. They had infiltrated everything without revealing anything. Not a single retaliatory strike had been launched from Earth. No signature of mass energy usage. Not one planetary weapon fired. They had made us destroy ourselves, through fear, through silence, through surgical disruption. One transmission broke through during the chaos. A lone pilot, part of a recon crew near Jupiter, his voice shaking. "There's nothing. No energy spikes. Just black fields. Like gravity collapsed and took the fleet. We didn't see anything. Then static. We're the only ones left." Then his feed cut. Just like that, the last echo of our presence near Earth went dead. And yet, we still couldn't locate the origin of the interference. No active jamming, no brute intrusion. Just systems that no longer listened to us. Like Earth had reprogrammed the language of our own tools, and locked us out of our own minds. I saw the truth clearly then. Earth hadn't defeated us. They'd invalidated us. They made our dominance irrelevant. We never fought back, because the war never began. We never responded, because the damage was silent. We never declared conflict, because by the time we noticed, we'd already lost. And still, no threats came. No demands. Just silence. The silence of something watching from a distance, knowing it has no need to strike twice. The Council broke that day. Not through war, not through death, but by being made irrelevant. For a body that once ruled star clusters with policy and force, irrelevance was the final wound. The silence after the incident stretched for weeks. No one spoke of retaliation. No meetings were called. The chamber was sealed indefinitely. Every representative left in quiet shame, taking with them the memory of one man and a single phrase burned into every interface across the chamber. *, we see you. We are prepared. Do not return. *. Within days, private fleets began to withdraw from Earth's sector. Surveillance stations powered down. Listening outposts self-destructed under mysterious circumstances. The data was never recovered. Those who tried to reinitiate observation protocols encountered errors never seen before. Drones turned back without explanation. Systems reconfigured mid-flight, rerouting their course or simply deactivating. Earth's message was clear. No second warnings would come. Attempts to approach Earth diplomatically again failed. Messages were sent. None were answered. Even neutral brokers were ignored. Earth had simply turned away and locked the door. Yet they didn't isolate, they watched. They always watched. For those of us who had witnessed the chamber incident, our positions faded. Some were removed from power. Others resigned voluntarily, unable to explain what happened without sounding mad. I returned to my system with my authority intact, but the fear remained. Every time I accessed a secure channel, I wondered who else might be listening. Then came the anomalies. A Jurai outpost near the Outer Rim reported a mining vessel malfunction. Upon arrival, the structure was found hollowed from within, its AI wiped. No damage, no heat signatures. Only silence. One message was found, etched into the internal hull: not again. Elsewhere, a Tyvek patrol ship vanished during routine inspection near Earth's former surveillance range. A month later, the ship returned, empty, systems scrubbed, and its navigation logs erased. There was no record of where it had gone, only an automated beacon that repeated the same phrase in binary: "You were warned." None of it could be officially attributed to Earth. There were no attacks, no open claims. But the pattern was undeniable. Every empire that had once touched Earth's orbit experienced something strange. A ship vanishing. A base lost. A system shut down for no reason. No visible weapons. No enemy fire. Only silence, followed by consequences. Newer species, unaware of the Council's failure, spoke openly of probing Earth again. I attended one of those discussions. The room was filled with fresh voices. Bold, confident, uninformed. One proposed a stealth scan of the planet's magnetic signature. Another suggested quantum relay surveillance. When I spoke, they dismissed me. Called me paranoid. Outdated. 3 months later, their attempt failed. The scanning vessel turned to dust, recorded by a single deep space observatory before its signal disappeared. No explosion. No wreckage. Just immediate dispersion. Molecular breakdown without energy discharge. No known weapon could achieve that. But there was no proof. Earth said nothing. Again. Over time, the Council changed its maps. Earth was no longer listed. Not removed, just ignored. The system was marked. Unclaimed zone, inactive. No data. No route. No explanation. A quiet agreement was made between surviving powers: do not speak of Earth. No official decree. No documentation. Just instinct reinforced by history. Earth never applied for membership again. They never sent another envoy. Never asked for trade. They didn't want inclusion. They wanted distance. And yet, every few decades something happened. A pirate fleet disappeared without trace while operating near Earth's perimeter. A rogue empire's AI network collapsed when it attempted to map the Sol system. A mercenary probe returned intact but with all its internal memory stripped, replaced with a single message: "This is mercy." Each event was a reminder. Not punishment. Not aggression. A signal. Earth did not forget. Earth did not forgive. They simply observed. Not with fleets. With understanding. With patience. We once believed war was decided by force. Then we thought information gave us dominance. But Earth had transcended both. They didn't need to fight. They made conflict obsolete. They understood every move before it was made, every intention before it formed. Our species taught the tale to our military academies in secret. The public was never informed. The words changed over time. The meaning did not. If you see Earth, turn back. If Earth sees you, it's already too late. They always ask the wrong question. They want to know what Earth did. What weapons they used. What technologies gave them control. But the answer has never been about tools or tactics. The truth is far more dangerous. Earth didn't win through might. They won by understanding us better than we understood ourselves. Every system we built, every signal we encrypted, every maneuver we believed unpredictable, they saw through it all as if reading from a script we thought unwritten. I still remember the last words spoken by the human envoy, not to the chamber, but directly to me. After the others had stormed out or frozen in disbelief, I remained. I didn't speak. I didn't move. And neither did he. He simply looked at me, calmly, as though peering through time itself. He said, "Peace isn't mercy. It's a decision we offer until it's no longer deserved." Then he left. That sentence plays endlessly in my mind. Not a threat. Not an offer. A warning dressed as wisdom. And that's what makes them unbearable to confront. Their restraint. Their patience. Earth had every reason to respond with vengeance. They had the means. Instead, they dismantled us without touching us. Humiliated empires without deploying fleets. They didn't need to shout. They whispered once, and the galaxy hasn't spoken since. Generations have passed. The incident has been buried under bureaucracy, rewritten, distorted, or ignored. But the veterans remember. The engineers who suddenly found their systems immune to override protocols. The tacticians who watched simulations fail without reason. The scientists who couldn't replicate the failure signatures of lost ships. We all know. Earth never needed war to win. They simply made sure we would never choose war again. And still, we don't know how. We theorize, of course. Some believe Earth unlocked prequantum computing. Others claim they developed a biological AI capable of instinctive prediction. A few whisper that Earth made contact with something older, something buried deep in their planet, and we only ever met its voice. But it doesn't matter. The result remains the same: dominance without violence, command without control, fear without force. I've seen young captains speak of humans with doubt. They weren't there. They didn't hear the prism's message. They didn't feel the atmosphere shift when every delegate realized the room no longer belonged to them. Some believe Earth has grown weak from isolation. Others believe they've evolved into something more. I don't argue with either. Because truth is, if Earth ever wanted to act again, we wouldn't have time to understand it. I've spent cycles replaying every moment of that encounter. Not out of regret but obsession. Trying to find what we missed. How we misread them so completely. And I keep coming back to one image: a man, unarmed, alone, facing powers older than his species had years in space, and never once did he flinch. That's what truly haunts me. Confidence without cruelty. Power without noise. Authority without presence. We had spent centuries associating strength with spectacle. Earth taught us that the most terrifying power is the one that doesn't need to announce itself. There's a reason no news ships have been sent to their system. There's a reason their skies remain untouched, their silence unbroken. It's not fear of retaliation. It's fear of irrelevance. Fear of being studied again, broken down, discarded like a solved equation. Earth doesn't bark. They don't roar. They calculate. And if you're lucky, they ignore you. Some believe we overstate the encounter. That we mythologize it. They ask why we haven't learned more about Earth since. Why no one has tried again. I ask them a different question. Why do you think we haven't heard from Earth? Because we haven't given them a reason to care. That's what chills me the most. They're still watching. They always were. Waiting not for provocation, but curiosity. For some species foolish enough to think history fades with time. For some empire blind enough to believe absence equals weakness. For someone to knock on the door Earth already welded shut. But I was there. I saw the door open. And I saw what stood behind it. So if you ever find yourself charting that region of space, if your scanners pick up Sol on the edge of a distant map, remember this. They don't need warning shots. They don't need fleets. They don't need war. All they need is interest. And if they ever turn toward you, it won't be with wrath. It will be with conclusion. Pray you never meet a human.